Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of the latest episode of Game of Thrones Home. So, a lot of stuff happened in this episode, and if you don't want anything spoiled and haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend that you watch it and then come back. So, with that out of the way, we got a lot of payoff that we really haven't had in the books yet. Because the books have been going at kind of a slower pace, and now that the show's kind of caught up, we've got a more kind of urgent need, and they can really use the 10 episode format to their advantage. Because in this one, we got a lot more exposition with like what's going on with Bran, and not just like dull exposition like somebody talking and talking. It was actually done very well. So the beginning of the episode started with Bran. We haven't seen him. We didn't see him at all last season, so now we're catching up, and he's training with the Three-Eyed Raven. And something really important that's going on is this shows kind of the power that the Three-Eyed Raven has, and kind of the power that he's trying to train in Bran. So we get to see Ned Stark and his brother Benjen and his sister Lyanna, who we have heard much about, and we're finally getting more information on that front. So they're looking back. Ned, Benjen, and Lyanna are kind of smaller. They're kind of around the age that like Bran, Arya, and Sansa were at the beginning of the show. And Ned sparred with Benjen, and it's kind of interesting because Ned's always had the reputation of being a pretty good swordsman. Maybe not. Well, there's always been the question of if him and Jaime actually got into a fight, who would actually be able to win. So it was kind of cool to see him in the beginning, and also see Benjen in the beginning, that he's not as good, but yet he become the Night's Watchman that we grew to love in the first season. And it was cool to see the interplay there, and see the kind of interplay that Bran had with the Three-Eyed Raven, because he's like, well, this is the past, so I need to show you this, because this is the kind of power that you will need to use effectively in order to understand what you're going to need to do later on. And we got to see their interplay. Lyanna, you could see that she has an interesting presence, and kind of more, I say, fiery, because usually the Starks of the North are seen as cold people. And she kind of has a life to her that's a little bit more carefree than you're usually seen to in the Starks. And then we also got to see Hodor before he was Hodor. He actually could speak. He was getting ready to fight and everything, but he was a stable boy and everything. And it was interesting to see that. And the Three-Eyed Raven pulled him out because he was getting too entrenched in it. He could stay there forever and just see those things. And Bran called him on that, and he's just like, you'll drown there. You'll stay there forever. And he was still kind of frustrated, and he got to talk to Meera, and he was telling her kind of what he was seeing and everything, and she was like, it doesn't matter. No place is safe. What are we going to do? And then the Children of the Forest, I don't know her name. They haven't really given her a name on the show. And he was explaining to her, he's not going to stay here forever. He's going to need you to protect him and help him accomplish his mission. And I'm like, yes, yes, yes. He's not going to become a tree dude. He'll be able to like commune through the trees and figure out information and movements and all that, but he's going to be active in the world and doing stuff. So then it goes back to the wall, and we got the kind of resolution to the standoff at the moment. They're going to bust down the door, take out Davos and all the rest of the people guarding Jon's body, when Dolorous Edd comes through. You see Tormund and the giant and everything crash through the gates of Castle Black and kind of get their own kind of standoff. And it was funny because they're trying to break through the door, and then out of nowhere the giant breaks through there, and everyone's like, holy crap. And it was cool because this showed that the wildlings aren't the stupid, savage people that the Night's Watch think, because they came in ready for a fight but did not initiate any fight whatsoever. It was the Night's Watch people who had assassinated Jon Snow that pretty much went on it. And Tormund only killed one person who was trying to kill him, and the giant dude got shot and fucking pulped the dude on a wall. It's like, everybody else was like, you brought in the nuclear option? We're good. And Thorne's like calling Dolorous Edd a traitor, and he's like, nope, you were the traitors who stabbed the Lord Commander and killed him. And took him and Ollie off to the cells. I'm like, you should have just let the giant just stomp on him. But we'll see. There's going to be interesting repercussions there. So that's kind of where we left off there. And then we go to King's Landing. And that dude who flashed his junk while Cersei was doing her walk of shame at the end of the 5th season was gloating and everything. And I find it kind of funny because he's like taking a piss on the wall, and then Robert Strong, who pretty much is the reanimated mountain, comes and pulps his head just against the wall. And I'm like, Cersei would be that vindictive. Granted, he's a small dude, but she will not take those kind of slights at all. Which then led us to, she wanted to go to her daughter Myrcella's funeral, but Tommen ordered that she would be kept at the Red Keep. There was a nice standoff between all those Lannister guards and Robert Strong, but it's like they didn't really want to fight him. They're like, we'll have to keep the king's order, but we really don't want to fuck with this dude. And she just went back up. Then it shifted to Tommen and Jaime with Myrcella, and I'm really liking Tommen's character. He's not a complete ass like Joffrey, but he doesn't have the qualities that would make him the strong kind of cutthroat person that Jaime and Cersei are. He's really conflicted. He wants to be a good king, but the High Sparrow and the militant faithful have kind of made a situation for him that's kind of a no-win. He doesn't want to be like a complete evil despot, but he cannot allow these people to arrest his mother and his wife, and they won't even let him see his wife. And it was just like, what's he gonna do? It's gonna be real interesting with that. And then Jaime had to stand up with the High Sparrow. He's like, well, what about my sins? What can I atone? How do I atone for breaking my oath and killing my king? And the High Sparrow's like, well, you'd be able to kill me before they got here. But it's the fanaticism, the religious fanaticism that has taken hold. He's like, us together we can topple an empire. And I'm like, you sound like you just want to create another empire. Only that you people are in power and you dictate the things and you are just as bad as them. You hide behind a cloak of righteousness, but yet you use it and do just as bad things as the people that you accuse these of. And it's just like, there's gonna be a war in King's Landing. Because then we go to Tommen and he's like, listen, I didn't want to get you arrested again. I didn't want them to take you from me. Help me. And she's like, oh yeah, we're gonna get it. And there's gonna be hell to pay. So, then we go to the Boltons. And we kind of get an understanding of what's going on there. And let me explain. Everything that happened there, even though I didn't know what was going to happen, I pretty much had a really good idea because a series of events occurred. They talked about how the search party for Sansa and Theon were pretty much slaughtered, and they're like, those were like your best men. That's kind of crazy. And they're like formulating their plan to go and attack the wall because they're pretty sure that that's where they're going to go since Jon Snow is there. And that anytime there's a Stark, they'll be able to rally the North. But like the Karstarks are like, screw that, we're with you guys, screw the Starks. And I'm like, well, you guys are going to be pretty much wiped out. Because your father, even though you're like, Robb beheaded my father, your father disobeyed his liege lord, the king that he swore fealty to, and murdered 2 prisoners. I'm sorry, even though I would understand the situation, but then again, feelings get in the way, and they just fucking shit up. And then we get the surprise that Bolton's new wife has given birth to a baby boy. And what does that send Ramsay into? At first he congratulates him, and then stabs him. He needed to do it. It fits with his MO. He is pretty much a rabid dog and will do anything to keep himself up top and survive. And then he tells the Maester to lie that Bolton was poisoned and that he is the new Lord Bolton. And he then takes his stepmother and his new brother and has them eaten by dogs. And I'm like, yep, he has to completely secure his claim. That completely fits with him. So then we go back to Brienne, Sansa, Podrick, and Theon, and it's cool that Brienne's telling Sansa that she saw Arya and that she looked good. Didn't look like she was dressed like a girl and anything, and she's like, yeah, that's my sister. And they formulate their plan to keep going to the wall, and Theon's like, I can't go with you because I don't want forgiveness. I've done things that are horrible, so I'm gonna go home. And Sansa seemed really upset about that because they've been through a horrendous thing together. So then that goes off to the Iron Islands, which we haven't seen in a while. And it's really interesting that we got back to there. Balon is being crotchety as shit and doing everything that he usually does. And then he gets his comeuppance because his brother appears. And he's like, time for a new king. And as Balon tries to kill him, he gets tossed over and leads to that being the scene of his burial. And we got to see how they do their burials, and it was really kind of cool. And his daughter was like, I swear it on the Sultan. I'm like, not yours yet. Got to be the king's move to get the new king and all that, and we'll see. So that'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how Theon does stuff when he comes back, how that'll interact with everything that's going on. And we also got to see Arya, and the man with no face came back and pretty much tested her and was like, all right. She said pretty much that she had no name. She stuck to the thing, and he's like, all right, then follow me. A girl does not need to beg anymore. And I think she's gonna get trained really well, and she'll be able to fight and everything, because she just thought of herself as a disability. She's got nothing. She's at a rock low point. And I think this is pretty much a pivotal part of like the men with no faces training. You have to be at nothing, and then it starts building. We also got to see Tyrion interacting with the dragons this week, which was pretty cool. And it's funny because everybody's like, well, the dragons, they're not eating. We don't understand that, why they're not eating. And Tyrion's like, well, I've read the most of Dragonlore. They need to be let free to forage and everything. Because towards the end of the Targaryens' reigns, the dragons were as small as cats because they weren't allowed to roam free. They have to be free. And everybody's like, well, how are you going to get close enough to unchain him? And he's like, he goes down like a boss. He's like, I'm a friend. I've always wanted a dragon. He starts telling them stories about how he wanted a dragon and that everybody laughed at him. And then he unchains one of them. And then the other one looks at him and then presents the neck. And it's like, these things are intelligent. You do not want to fuck with them. So he unchains him. And then he's like, I almost got eaten and fired. And then he went up and he's like, Varys, if I ever do something like that again, punch me in the face. It was great. It was amazing. It was great character development. Then we got back to the wall and the most important stuff that happened at the end. And Davos is asking Melisandre for her help. And she's like, it was all lies. And he's like, well, fuck the Lord of Light. Fuck all this stuff. I'm asking you. I've seen you perform miracles. You need to bring him back. And so she goes through. She's doing the ritual. And at first it looks like nothing's happened. Jon Snow's not back. And then after everybody's filed out, Jon gasps and brings himself back. He's back to life. It's like, alright, now the game has changed. This is the interesting stuff. We're going to have to see how he's changed and what's gone on with him, because he's been dead for pretty much a day. I don't think that much time has passed. At least a day, maybe going into a second day. But this is a game changer. This is where everything's going to be happening. The wall's going to be drastically different. He is now not bound by the yoke to the Night's Watch because he has already died. Come back. It's going to be interesting. I think he's going to make a coalition of like the wildlings and everything, and those who are left at the Night's Watch. They're going to have to fight the White Walkers. They're going to have to do more. They're going to have to learn more about how to fight the White Walkers, what their goals are, how to defeat them. So it's great to have this back in this way, because otherwise if they dragged it out, it would have been stupid. And it just would have made tedium, and it's great that in the second episode we got him back. So, those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.